Hi guys, and welcome back to another lesson of our Nunchaku. Now, in this lesson, we're going to have a quick look at what we've learned already. There's been 2 lessons already, but lesson 2 is really 2 in 1, so it's 2 and 3. So lesson 1, we've learnt about our stances, we've learnt about where to stand, we've learnt about chopping and pegging, doing it at 45 degrees in the crossways, and putting it all together. In the second lesson, we've learnt about arm switching and about how to do our blocking. Okay? So we should be able to do some of our arm switching now, like this. We should be able to do our blocks. And we have also learned a little bit about bouncing our nunchuck. Right, so going from here to here. And we should be still practicing those. Those will take a little while to get. You won't have got them all perfect yet, but these are all the basics that we're learning. Now, in this lesson today, we're going to be doing a figure 8 with our nunchucks, right? And we're going to learn how to roll our wrists a little bit. So, with a figure 8, first of all, we need to learn how to really roll our wrist. If you hold your nunchuck like this, and we're just simply doing a circle, but we're holding it full grip like that, that is no wrist roll at all. You notice my wrist isn't really moving, I'm just doing a slight roll from my arm and shoulder. But what we want to learn to do is taking these 3 fingers off and holding it with our index finger and our thumb, we want to learn to roll our wrist right around like that. So we're rolling our wrist. And you'll notice the opposite end of the nunchuck goes around in a circle itself. You see, so there's a circle going on both sides. You can still grip this very tight here. Right? And when you get good at it, you can do it very fast without losing control of your nunchuck. And it's a smooth rotation. But if you don't take these 3 fingers off, the closest you'll ever get is this bouncing feel. Right? So, not really very smooth. We don't want to have to get to here and do that every time we move over. We want to be able to roll it smoothly like that. So that is a wrist roll. On one side, this is just going in a perfect circle. On the other side, you'll notice the inside part of this nunchuck here. And you can do this from anywhere on your nunchuck really, but the inside part is going in a circle on the inside of our arm here, while the outside part is doing its own circle. Right? And you can speed that up. Quite an important skill to have if we're going to do some of our later skills. You'll notice that we just did a single arm grab where we went over and caught our nunchuck when we do our changeovers. And we can do a thing later called a razzle dazzle, where we slow it down so we do an extra spin over before we catch it. Right, so we go there, catch. The reason we do that is because if we strike an object and it bounces back at us, we need to slow down. So we're going to cover that in a later lesson, but that is also why we need these round with wrist rolls. Also, not as good at them on my left hand, but I can still do them, right? And you'll notice that is an ambidextrous skill you want to do with both hands. So I would start slow with this, holding it with our thumb and forefinger, and just slowly rolling around till we get comfortable and it's smooth. And then as you go, you can speed it up. You might drop your nunchuck doing this, but you'll get good at gripping it in between those fingers. Your hands can actually get stronger as you do this. Your hands will get sore. So you'll have to do some progressive training with this until your hands are strong. Okay, so that's the first part, that's a wrist roll. I want you guys to practice that. There's no numbers because they're too fast to really count, but you just want to do as many wrist rolls as you can on one side, switch over and do as many as you can on the other side. Still keeping our little hand blocking hand up here. Okay. Now, that's our wrist rolls. The next part is figure 8s. There's 2 types of figure 8s. The first one, I'm going to hold these nunchucks together when I do this, is downwards chopping, then coming up and over, and another downwards chop. So I would think of that as a downward figure 8 in this direction. Right? So when we first start doing that, we'll go down, up and over, down 45 degrees, down 45, down 45, down 45, down 45. And that is that figure 8. But if we want to get advanced, because see I'm holding that with my full hand, we want to do it with the wrist roll. So we can then learn to do this with the wrist roll, and you can do it fast. You can see from the side, when I do that with the wrist roll, it's important to get your hand here, so A, you're blocking yourself, but you don't get your hand in the way. But my wrist itself is rolling. Okay? So that is the downwards chopping with the wrist roll. It's much tighter here when we're doing it with the wrist roll than if I was not doing a wrist roll. just be doing it like that. The second one, to practice that one, and you want to practice it on both hands, downwards, up and over, downwards, up and over, downwards, up and over, downwards, up and over, like that. And then with the wrist roll. Whoop, there we go. It's been a while since I've done this one, but you get the idea. Downwards, 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 downwards. So we'll practice those on both sides. I even need a little bit of practice because I haven't done that one for a while on my left hand. But then we're going to look at doing our wrist rolls the opposite way, so we're pegging. So instead of going downwards 45, we're going to go upwards 45, upwards, 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 okay? And so when we do that, we'll start off holding full hand. It's just upwards, 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 like that. And once we are confident doing that one, so we'll do a slow upwards, 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 upwards. These are figure eights. We're then going to go into doing it with a wrist roll, like this, and it will get smoother. You can see. Right. Same with the other side. Upwards, 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 upwards. And the pegging wrist roll is actually much more challenging. That's how we do our figure eights, right? Since they need to do practice on the left hand. But those are quite useful because when we're doing our kata later with this, it will have some figure eights in it, and it will have some over pegging like that, which is really called a razzle dazzle, right? There's one name for it. But what it really is it's a recoil. So we're recoiling. And we'll learn a little bit more about that later. But for today, I want you guys to get used to full hand holding and doing your downwards figure eights in both hands. Downwards figure eight, like that. And then your pegging figure eights, up, 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 up. Your wrist rolls on each hand. And if you can, your wrist rolling figure eights like this. And your wrist rolling pegging figure eights. That was the pegging one. Your wrist rolling chopping figure eights as well. Yeah. So they are the two. We want to do them both hands. This one takes quite a while to learn and master. I'm still learning to do it really, really well, but you get the idea. That's a little key skill, but the most important one is being able to wrist roll. So in slow-mo, that's slow wrist rolling. Okay. So practice those 4 or 5 things. We can learn them in class, and I'll see you in the next class. Bye for now.